Members, please take your seats. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. President,
Senators, we are very pleased today. Actually, why don't we do this first? We're going to do this first because our dear friend, and we're waiting for members of EHE to come in. So we'll leave the board open. We'll let the members come in. So before we do our invocation, our dear friend, our former member of this body, who has certainly been on the national stage for quite a while here, has a very exciting book signing coming up this afternoon. So he only has a few minutes, but wanted to make sure that he had the opportunity to just come back home and say a few words. And so without further ado, would like to introduce the Congressman from District 8, our friend, our colleague, Jamie Raskin.
Wow, thank you, everybody. Gee, I don't remember any standing ovations when I works here. What a pleasure, what an honor to be with our friends, President Ferguson. Thanks for letting me drop by and say a few words this morning. I wanted to thank you in person for a few things. One is the Tommy Raskin Act and the Senate, the General Assembly taking the lead in setting up a system where people who are in mental health crisis can call the state and then have somebody checking in with them. That's quite a breakthrough and quite an innovation, and you guys were wonderful enough to name it after our beloved son Tommy. So I want to thank you for that. And then on top of that, President Ferguson, I don't know how these things happened because I never got to the level of power here that would allow me to see what's going on with First Citizen, but somehow you guys made me the first citizen, and it took me weeks to get over that. And I'll just say, you know, I certainly don't feel like I deserve that, but I will spend the rest of my life working to deserve that award for our beloved Maryland and for our people. And I'm just very nostalgic being back here. I'm telling you, you guys did not. It's too sweet. It's too intimate. You didn't get me ready for what goes on in the House of Representatives. Let me tell you, I spent the week getting heckled. It was like the Rocky Horror Picture Show there, you know. But I'm always in awe of the work that you do. It's amazing that such a small group of people can get so much done on behalf of millions of people in our state. You are great leaders throughout this body, and I keep looking back for, well, where's Jim Brochin? You know, when I got here, I was a backbencher, and when I left here, I was a backbencher, and President Miller promoted me to sitting next to Jim Brochin. I can't remember what I did to get him so mad, but so they basically had like the most liberal Democrat sitting next to the most conservative Democrat, and I was the only person who would talk to him, and so, but I love Jim Brochin. I don't know if he's still out there somewhere, but I love everybody in this body, and I understand there are people leaving. I saw George Edwards is leaving. I think Dolores is leaving. Where's Dolores? There she is. What an honor or privilege it was to serve with the great senators in this body, and it really is a tiny band of brothers and sisters who've had the experience of being senators. And I remember when Bill Ferguson was the youngest person in the room, and I think he might still be the youngest person in the room. Oh, is that right? Oh, yes, Sarah's there. But it's a great institution, and I think about it all the time, and it's an important part of me, and everything I learned about politics I learned right here. So thanks for letting me drop by, President Ferguson. Thanks.
Mr. President. So the Senator, or the Congress, the Chair.
I want to send our regards and our sympathy and our well wishes to Sarah Bloom Raskin, who was our Commissioner of Financial Regulation.
Well said. Thank you.
Mr. President?
Yes, Senator from Anne Arundel.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and it's so great to have the congressman here. He's actually here for, in the capital city for the Annapolis Book Festival.
Yes.
I was going to make an announcement on the floor anyway today. It runs until 5, so maybe, perhaps, some of us can get there before it ends. But it's a wonderful event. I was supposed to moderate a panel actually at the very moment, but we are here doing the people's work. But I'm so glad the congressman came to my district and is sharing his wisdom with all of Maryland, but particularly the capital city this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Well, he was supposed to leave at 10:17, so he's 2 minutes over. But Senator from District 4.
I know. I know he's got to go, but I got to tell a story real quick before he goes. So my first year down here, everybody knows, a very conservative legislator, and Jamie is very liberal. And so a reporter came down from Frederick to do a profile on me, see what I was doing. And the headline of the story, and the story ended up being, it said, Huff Raskin attached at the hip. And the whole story was about, when she was following me for these couple days, she said, all the time these two are talking on the floor, working together on bills, and they're always together with each other. So I very much appreciated that. I learned a lot from you, some great wisdom. One time when I was walking out, I'll never forget, the committee, and I said, well, the politics of this, he goes, don't talk to me about the politics. Let's just talk of the policy. And it was such a good lesson, and we really miss you down there, or down here, and so just thank you for your friendship.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. Wonderful. Enjoy your book signing. All right. Great way to start the morning. We also have another special presentation. Where did we lose? Oh, right there. Sorry, I lost you. So we today are very pleased to have the senator who will be introducing his family who's joining here today, who's going to be giving our invocation, the senator from District 5. Members, please rise for the invocation.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, colleagues. I will first introduce my family. That's here with me today. Baseball practice and lacrosse practice got mudded out in Carroll County, so they could come down and be with me. My wife, Ruth Reedy, is here with my son, Caleb, and my daughter, Brooklyn, if you'd just give them a... I arranged it so you'd give them a standing ovation, because you're already standing, so it's good. And just very quickly, just to share a little bit with you as we get ready to open our time together, when I was asked if I would do the invocation, I thought about, it's something I thought about if I was ever asked to do it again, I would share this. There's a story in the New Testament about a man named Zacchaeus. Jesus was visiting his town, and Zacchaeus was an outcast, and he was hated by most people in his community because he used an official position he had with the Roman Empire to basically cheat his fellow countrymen and enrich himself. And the Bible isn't clear if Zacchaeus was a Republican or a Democrat. He was a government tax collector, but he was also like the top 1% richest guy in town. So it's not clear what his political leanings was. But when he came in contact in the story with God's love and forgiveness, as well as the admonition to go and sin no more, he changed. He changed, and he paid back everything that he had stolen with interest. And it got me to thinking about just what God's love can do in our lives and what he does for us. So I want to just ask if you'll bow your heads and pray with me. Lord, thank you for the life that you've given us and the incredible honor and responsibility of serving our community. Thank you for your love, your strength, and your forgiveness in our lives. Help us to show that same spirit of love and forgiveness to the people around us that others may write off or not believe will ever change. Help us to listen to your voice today and every day, and help us to finish our work here and do your will. In your name, amen.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 33rd District.
Thank you very much. Beautiful sentiment, well delivered. Move that we journalize the prayer.
We will most certainly, without objection, journalize the invocation, and we're pleased to have the senator's words and his family there with him to be able to enjoy it. It's wonderful. All right, has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 46 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland is again in session. Senators, are there any introductions? Any introductions? All right, if not, we are going to work. We have a fair amount, not overwhelming. We're going to work, we'll see how long it goes, but probably, several hours here. We're going to try and get as far as we can. We won't be here all night, but we're going to do the best that we can. I'm wondering if maybe, actually, if we could ask the senator from Frederick City, there's something on everybody's desk, if the senator would be interested in letting everyone know what's there.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was pleased. I was afraid this thing wasn't going to arrive before we got out, but it came in yesterday, so I sat up till 2 o'clock last night autographing everybody's book. Over the years, I ran into a lot of older people that knew histories of various parts of the city, and I always wanted to record them, and picked the paper up one day and they passed away. And a lot of history was lost. And I had a lot of people say, you really ought to write about how, what my team did to bring the city back. And so I thought about it for a long time. And so I did it with my in sections, my 4 years as alderman, and in each of the 4 terms as mayor. And then I thought I ought to write a little bit about growing up, what it was like for me then, and why I became interested in doing something for the city. I didn't want to write an autobiography, and I didn't feel like doing a lot of research. So everything in there I wrote from memory. And it could probably be 10 times that large, but I just tried to remember interesting or funny stories or how I got things accomplished, and so I just wrote them that way. I've been very fortunate in my life to make a lot of really good friends that William Donald Schaefer, I became very, very good friends with him, and he was great to me. And Jim Rouse, if those of you that remember him, he was an alternate delegate at the 76th convention when I was a delegate there, and we became good friends. And everybody needs a mentor like that. I had some very extravagant plans for the city in terms of cost, and particularly for Carroll Creek. And I hired an architect to draw them up for me, and this was before we had all the computer programs. And he came back with the drawings, and they were nothing. I asked him to take what I gave him and make it better, and it came back and it was less. And I walked around demoralized, and I thought maybe I'm being too anxious or ambitious. And I called Jim, and he came up, looked at what I was doing, told me that the architect used to work for him. He was a great designer, but he said to me, you've got more vision in your thumb than he's got in his whole body. He said, never let anybody make you doubt yourself. And he really gave me the confidence from that point on to do a lot of things in the city.
It's wonderful.
And it was just great to have and meet people like that. It's one of the highlights of my life, the people like that I met and became friends with. So anyhow, this is just a whole lot of recollections, but again, I also tried to show how we got certain things done, because we had no money and we realized we weren't going to get any money for a long time, though we did later.
Well,
So,
we look forward to
thank you.
reading it, Senator. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. It's wonderful, and appreciate the notes inside. It's really good.
Everybody here should do one themselves.
That's right. That's right. In theory. All right. Well, if there's no further introductions, so we consider the reading of the journal from the prior legislative day. Let's do the quick messages. We have a message from the House, number 14. Clerk, read the bills.
Senate Bill 178, Chair, Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs Committee. Program Open Space Local Projects Federal Funds.
Majority Leader moves so be considered the reading of the bills. We've got another message of first reading House bills. Again, we wish them good luck. Clerk, read the bills.
House Bill 80, Delegate Cullison, Home and Community-Based Services Waiver, Participation, and Application Rules.
Majority Leader moves so be considered the reading of the bills. They will be referred to the Standing Committee on Rules. All right, let's go ahead. We are going to jump right in. We obviously know that we had the vetoes from the administration, and so we're going to tackle those first, just so that we all know we have some that are Senate bills. We have to act before the House can act, so we want to get the Senate bills to those that are going, should they be overridden, over to the House. The House is working on their House overrides that they will send over here. We'll take those up when they come over to us. So we may have some interruptions in between, but we're going to try and go straight through as much as possible. So let's start with veto Senate bills number 1. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 275, Senator Hayes, Labor and Employment, Family and Medical Leave Insurance Program, Establishment Time to Care Act.
All right, the question before the body is, shall the bills pass notwithstanding the objections of the Chief Executive? On the question to override, Chair recognizes the Minority Whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just ask the body to join me in supporting Governor Hogan's veto of this bill. We had extensive debate on this a couple of weeks ago, and speaking for myself, I've acknowledged that we understand there's a desire to figure out a way to do something like this. But what we're doing with this bill is rejecting a common sense approach, which would be to work with the private sector that already provides a lot of these types of insurance products. They don't quite fit what we're looking for, but instead we're reinventing the wheel with an expensive program that, first of all, will cost hundreds of millions of dollars to set up, to continue year after year, funded by what we estimate to be about a $1.6 billion payroll tax. My friends across the aisle call it an assessment, but it's going to be every paycheck for every employee in the entire state of Maryland will have money coming out of their paycheck. $6 on average a week for someone making $50,000 a year, goes up from there. What we should be doing is an approach that was talked about during session, which would be look at more of a long-term study, looking at how we could do this effectively, and looking at, again, private sector solutions that could be combined with something we do from the state government level. Instead, what ended up coming back from the House of Delegates that we predictably adopted without a whole lot of questioning was sort of the worst of all worlds, where instead of doing a study and waiting, or instead of adopting the program that we passed out of here that had some significant guardrails to be sure that fees were capped and that it didn't fall too heavily upon job creators, especially small job creators, we have a hodgepodge here, and we kind of take the worst of both sides of that. So I think it would be unwise to move forward. I think it would be much better to try to tackle this from a different direction. So I support Governor Hogan's veto and encourage you to do the same. Do not vote for a payroll tax on every Maryland worker and basically every Maryland small business. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Any further discussion? Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, we spent tremendous amount of time on debate on this. This piece of legislation passed both bodies with overwhelming support, and it's really, in support of many Maryland families who just gave birth to a child or serve as a caregiver. I ask that you will join me in please voting to override the governor's veto.
All right, thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the Senator from the 38th District.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to support Governor Hogan's veto of SB 275, and I just wanted to share with my colleagues, and I'll be brief, that after we passed this bill, I started to get some calls from both employers and workers trying to understand, how's this going to work? What's the cost share? What will this look like? And there weren't any answers. I went back and listened to the debate in the committee where it was even called a hot mess by some of those who supported the bill. So, we're not ready to go forward with this, and I again would urge my colleagues to support the governor's veto.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the Senator from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Mr. President. As many of you know, I had a small business for 38 years. And so a lot of times on legislation, I kind of get stuck between supporting business and supporting the legislation. But I'm going to tell you a little story about something that happened in my little agency. I had about 8 full-time employees. And this one lovely lady that had been with me for a long, long time, first her dad got ill, and she stayed home for a couple of weeks with her mom to help her dad until he died. And it wasn't long, her brother got ill with cancer. And she went and helped her mom with her brother till her brother died. And later that year, she was diagnosed with cancer. And through her chemo and her radiation, I paid her. So it was weeks and weeks and weeks in 1 year that I paid this employee that had been with me for a very long time. And as I look, she was making about $50,000 a year. And so as I look at this bill, this may have cost her $6 a week. And it may have cost me $2 a week. $2 a week times 52 weeks, $104 a year. And instead, I paid her her $50,000 salary week after week after week. I think this is good for employers. I know change is hard, but we need to take care of our employees, and I think this is a very reasonable way for employers to help their employees, particularly when they're caring for family and when they have serious illnesses. And I ask that you override this veto. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the Minority Leader.
Thank you. I rise to support the governor. I think his wise decision to veto this. We saw a pattern this year, which I haven't seen as much in the past years, that we need to take what the House gives us and rush it up to get signed, even if it's not ready. So what was the main reason to rush this? When can they make a claim to get benefits for this great family leave program? Can they get benefits next year? No. Can they get benefits in 2024? No. This bill waits until 2025 to even allow them to get benefits after they started taxing them a year before. So what was the rush that we couldn't get this right and put the guardrails up? We have an uncapped tax, payroll tax going on the people. We don't have a clue what it'll be. We just said, let's pass it, trust government, we'll figure out how it'll work, we'll figure out how much we'll tax you. But we have to hurry up and get it out there because we have to give you some benefits in 2025. There was no reason to rush this legislation. We should have actually followed the House original and study this and come back with a recommendation. So for those reasons, I will be supporting the governor's veto.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the Senator from District 11.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I rise in support of overriding the governor's veto. A little more than 30 years ago, I was a very young staffer on Capitol Hill, and I recall writing a memo to my then boss about why the Family and Medical Leave Act was so important. Unfortunately, here we are 30 years later, the national government has not taken any steps to ensure that we have a universal nationwide policy on family and medical leave, and so, on paid leave, that is. And so I am very proud that Maryland is stepping up to the plate here. This issue has been studied here for years. We have taken incremental steps, and now we are finally taking the big step, and I am very, very proud to stand here and urge my colleagues to vote to override the governor's veto. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the Senator from District 6.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think we at times look at things to try to balance things out and to make them in a way from a bill to a law to work with our communities, our businesses, our constituents. And we do that many a times. This is not helping out our businesses. Matter of fact, it's going to hurt them in a great way. We've had major problems with people on unemployment. And matter of fact, we've had lists of people that call in, and they've had major problems with that, just getting their money and getting help. And we've done all that we can as legislators to work with our administration to help them out. This will put more people in unemployment because these employers don't want this. They want to give all that they can, especially the small businesses, all that they can to their employees. They want to help that in every way, by their pay, by their medical, and everything that they can do to make sure that if you're a single or a family, that you would do well. But this would not do well for our state, for our businesses, and this will ruin some businesses and close some because it's not going to benefit them, especially our small businesses. We want to help our mom and pop shops. We want to help our small businesses. This is not a help. This will destroy and close some of them because they cannot afford this. We need to be wise in our decisions.
I will be wise in this decision than myself, and I think I'm going to do the right thing. I will support my governor. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. All right, I think we're ready for the question. Any further discussion? If not, the question before the body is, shall the bill pass notwithstanding the objections of the chief executive? A green vote will override the governor's veto. A red vote will sustain. If there's no further discussion, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 30 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 275, the governor's veto has been overridden and the bill will pass, notwithstanding the objections. Clerk, read the message.
by the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate today, notwithstanding the objections of the governor, voted to override the veto on Senate Bill 275. Said bill is sent to you for your consideration by order Nicole M. Alexanders, Secretary of the Senate.
All right, message having been read is ordered adopted. We will take up the next one, veto calendar number 2. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 53, Senator Carter, Juvenile Law, Child Interrogation Protection Act.
All right, Senators, the question before the body, shall the bill pass notwithstanding the objections of the Chief Executive? Chair recognizes the Senator from the 34th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, colleagues, we all know the adage that tough cases make for bad laws. And it's not just that they make bad laws, but we tend to take them to their absurd extreme. So the motivation for this bill, this law here, was certain cases where juveniles, primarily in other states, were sent to prison based upon interrogations as juveniles. And certainly that's a result that merited action. It merits action. Juveniles clearly much easier typically, I think, to sort of bully into an unfair confession of sorts. So no problem addressing that issue. That's one that deserved our attention. The problem is that we take it again to its absurd extreme. What I asked for an amendment on this. So what happens is if you don't follow all these procedures, which basically shut down juvenile interrogations. I mean, the hoops are so numerous that it'd be like claiming you can claim a tax exemption for something, but there's 5,000 steps it takes, so that's not really an exemption. And this is the same way. The hoops, the burdens are so extreme that basically you shut down juvenile interrogations until the parents have consented, the lawyer's there, the lawyer's going to say don't do it, so you shut them down. Let's make no mistake, there will not be juvenile interrogations. The problem I have is that what we asked was, well, let's not push this onto juvenile services, because after all, the mission of the Department of Juvenile Services is that it's a child-serving agency responsible for assessing the needs of the individual needs of the children. Well, what's wrong with that? That's certainly laudable. If a child has trauma in their life or whatever that's causing them to engage in criminal behavior, certainly we want to address that. Let's address it while he or she is 16 or 17, not wait till the repeat behavior winds them in the DOC for 30 years when they're 21. Let's address it early. Makes total sense. So all we asked was for a simple amendment that said that this doesn't apply in juvenile proceedings. That yeah, you have to record your confessions, but you know what? If you mess up along the way, we're not going to we're not going to say this case is gone, because that's too extreme. That's an extreme remedy that basically puts onto the child the failure of the adults. That kid deserves, every child deserves the full benefit of a Juvenile Services Administration. If there's problems there, we should address the Juvenile Services Administration, but we certainly shouldn't have children deviated from those services to pursue an objective that was really spawned by actions in the criminal justice system. So what this bill now says is that child who needs to be put in drug treatment, who needs to be family counseling, who needs to have a wake-up call, is really important. And I just want to give you a little story that kind of encapsulates this. I was at a charity auction this past month, and a guy bid 26 grand, and then he gave it away. He gave 26 grand to a charity, which I thought was pretty impressive by my book. He didn't get anything for that. He gave 26 grand. So I went over to this guy and just to say, that's really awesome of you. On behalf of the community, thank you for that. And he said, no, I know who you are. And he said, in fact, and I know your brother. My brother was a prosecutor. And he said, in fact, I named my daughter after your brother. I said, you named her Joe? And I said, no, Castley. I named her Castley. And that's her first name. And he said, and I want you to meet her. And I said, okay, this is really shocking to me. What's happened here? He said, well, he's probably mid-30s now. When he was a young person, my brother was prosecuting him on a juvenile offense, and they're riding up the elevator, and together, and my brother says to him, is really just reaming the kid out. He says, you're a smart kid. There's no reason for you to be behaving in this conduct. I'm sitting in this wheelchair. I would give anything to have your brains and your capability and how far I could go in life if I didn't have this, and you're throwing it all away. And he said it was so impactful on him that he changed his entire life just based upon that one encounter in the juvenile justice system. He changed his entire life, and now the guy is a very wealthy, very successful business person because of that one encounter in the juvenile services where somebody actually, the words that were said captured him, and he realized just how self-centered he was being as a juvenile and turned his life around. Those are the kind of encounters we want to encourage. As juveniles come forth, we shouldn't have a system that says, well, in order for the adults to bring you into that system, they have to jump through all these hoops. If you need the services, give you the services. We are taking a large body of kids who otherwise would have been helped by juvenile services and just pushing them right back onto the streets, and we do them no favors because you know what's going to happen. The problems that were unaddressed are going to percolate, and eventually it's going to catch up to them, and that kid's going to be sitting in the DOC doing 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And that's the big fault with this bill. We took it once again to the absurd extreme. We start with an idea that has merit, and then we just run with it until we fall off the edge of the earth, and that's what we've done here. I encourage you to sustain the governor's veto and do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from District 10.
Thank you. Colleagues, if kids get into trouble or if they have an interaction with the police, they, as much as an adult, need counsel. They need to understand the situation they are in, and you can imagine 11, 12, and 13-year-olds not understanding the seriousness of a charge, what the official definitions are that lead them to be charged, nor to feel that they can speak openly about their vulnerabilities, about their lack of understanding, because they are in trouble. If adults need counsel before they are charged and in many cases arrested, children, our children, no matter their economic status, no matter their community, no matter their demographics in other regards, they need help and counsel. Kids, when they get into trouble, a lot of us are parents, know at that point when they know they're in some kind of trouble, they'll say and do almost anything in order to get out of trouble. That's not the time when they do their most critical thinking. And we should not give less to a child who is facing trouble than an adult would have. So the protections that are in the criminal justice system for an adult who is apprehended by the police or maybe arrested should be there for our children. Why should children have less than an adult when they equally stand before the bar of justice? It's just not right. It's not fair. It's not even reasonable. And I would just ask that we treat the child as well and give them the benefit of counsel and to understand the nature of the circumstances facing them and to even understand the nature of the charge. Many of the children who don't have constant supervision and assistance and good playgrounds and good nourishment and good teachers who believe in them, but who go to schools with just school resource officers who scared them to death there, feel that I'm in trouble, whatever they say I did, I guess I better say yes to it so that I'm not in more trouble, not knowing that in fact, agreeing to something that they don't understand the nature of, the definition of, in order to get adults to be kind, leads them in fact, in many cases, to injustice and to criminal activity that's going to be more assured. So I, for one, as a parent and a grandparent, would say it makes sense to be sure the child can understand the nature of the charge, to give them counsel at the first interaction with the police, and to make sure that they are not more disadvantaged than an adult would be in the same circumstance. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. All right, I think we know the question. Shall the bill pass, notwithstanding the objections of the chief executive? A green vote will be to override the governor's veto. A red vote is to sustain. Without further discussion, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? Chair recognizes the bill sponsors. 2 minutes to explain their vote.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. You know, with great pride, I am so happy that we are doing this veto override. It's a giant step in the direction of protecting all of our children, but it's also an incredibly important public safety vote. Because all of the data shows that when children's confessions are coerced, that they are then later exonerated, but their lives destroyed in the process, but also that while they are being held because they are not actually the culprit, there is no further pursuit on the part of law enforcement for those that have actually committed crimes. And this happens more often than one might think. And so on behalf of all of those children that have been harmed by the coercion and by the coerced confessions, I'm happy that we're doing this veto override on behalf of Alan Chestnut from Cecil County in particular, whose story touched my heart the most, and so many others. I thank you for doing this for the protection of our children and their constitutional rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Any further senators wish to explain their vote? Chair recognizes the senator from the 44th District. Has 2 minutes to explain his vote.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. In the governor's veto letter, he writes, recent studies suggest that youth are more vulnerable and culpable than adults and may be more likely to submit to pressure from the police to proceed with questioning instead of exercising their constitutional right against self-incrimination. Where I differ in the framing is that we're removing a crucial tool from the toolbox. I think we're providing a crucial tool to the youth who, as research shows, are most vulnerable. What many of us don't realize is that when you're talking with police, police can say whatever they want to say, and it does not have to be honest, it doesn't have to be truthful. In fact, we had a bill last year where I attempted to put something in legislation to say that when you were being interrogated, that law enforcement would have to be honest with you who was being interrogated. And the state's attorneys, they didn't want to do any of that. The police didn't want to do it. So I think this provides a great tool for our children. That's why I'm voting in the way that I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Any further senators wish to explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 30 votes in the affirmative, the administration's veto has been overridden. The clerk will read the message.
by the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate today, notwithstanding the objections of the Governor, voted to override the veto on Senate Bill 53. Said bill is sent to you for your consideration by order Nicole M. Alexander, Secretary of the Senate.
Message having been read is adopted. Clerk will read the next bill from calendar 3.
Senate Bill 1, Senator Bidle, State Finance and Procurement, Prevailing Wage, Stop Work Orders.
All right, Senators, the question before the body is, shall the bill pass notwithstanding the objections of the Chief Executive? Chair recognizes the Senator from the 33rd District.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I stood on the floor advocating against the bill when it originally came through, and I just want to hit the 2 or 3 high points of why the bill is not needed. First of all, this is designed to make sure that workplace employees get paid their fair and just wage. According to the documents I have, in the past 10 years, not a single case has made it to a court hearing. Every investigation where a contractor has been determined to be in violation of the law has resulted in the workers being made whole within the existing means of the commissioner. Mr. President, it's a solution looking for a problem. There isn't one. The other thing we have to recognize is that the contractor who caused the issue may not even be on the work site. His work may be done and he's left. And yet, because of his incompetence, hundreds if not thousands of workers could be prevented from working and earning a wage. That's not fair. And the last thing I want to share with you is that, if I can read without my glasses, that a mere suggestion of a violation doesn't mean that it actually happened. So again, the bill is flawed, not needed, would encourage my peers to put up a red vote. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Any further senators? Chair recognizes the Senator from the 34th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, colleagues, this bill is really so against people succeeding, and here's why. You get little guys struggling, little gals struggling with their small businesses every year, and they're just waiting for that one contract. You got the small business, and finally you get that contract to do the windows on the side of the big building. And you get that contract because you scraper, you're a scrapper, you're a hard worker, you got that contract, but you need a whole lot of materials to do that. You got to rent scaffolding, you got to beef up your employees, rent scaffolding, all the other safety equipment that goes with that. So now you've leveraged your little company, and you're on the line for $500,000 in equipment and materials. You've got it all laid out there. You're working. You're a come-from-behind kind of person, but you're making it. Wage and hour folks come out, and they suspect that, based upon a preliminary investigation, that you have some violation. They haven't proven it. They've not thoroughly exhausted it, but they believe that maybe you did. So they now come in and shut down the entire job site. This is a $20 million job site. They shut the whole thing down, not just your piece, the whole thing. So now you're this little contractor, little subcontractor, working for the big general contractor. You're the little guy, the little gal, trying to make it in life, and the entire contract shut down. Within 48 hours, that was on a Friday, now it's Monday, within 48 hours, the general contractor can reverse that stop work in one simple swoop by terminating that subcontractor. That little guy, little gal who was trying to make big, they just get terminated. What was the due process? There wasn't any. There wasn't a hearing. There was no temporary injunction. There was no immediate relief. Nobody went to an administrative law judge or to a circuit court. There was no mechanics liens, none of that kind of stuff. It was based upon the suspicion, this little guy, this little gal, their contract was just terminated. And guess what? They can appeal, but the problem is there's no liability for the general contractor. They've already been terminated. The general contractor is immune. The general contractor has already got a substitute contractor in and is moving forward. The little guy, the little gal, now maybe 30 days, 60 days later, they finally get a determination that, hey, guess what? We messed up. You weren't in violation. It was a technical violation. Yeah, we shouldn't have shut you down. Good luck. You just lost your contract. You're saddled with $500,000 in overhead that you had to pull out of there. This is just such an affront to basic due process and fairness. This is not where this body should be going, not where this state should be going. Fundamental due process is important. It's a pain. It makes administration always more tough, more difficult. It's just like the rules we follow in this body. It'd be so much easier just to walk in and cast votes and dispense with all these hearings and all the formality. But that's that process we go in for legitimacy and assure democracy. This bill, this is a terrible precedent. This is a terrible precedent. You can destroy people's lives, their fortunes, with basically no due process at all. An investigator comes in, they suspect something, and you've destroyed the person's livelihood. I request that you sustain the governor's veto. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the bill sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to my friend and colleague from the 34th. I have to wonder if he's read the amended bill, because the things he talked about are not the way the bill currently reads. I want to start out by explaining to the body that the prime contractor may not terminate the contract with the subcontractor until 48 hours after a meeting between the commissioner and the subcontractor. This is after the investigation, not on just a suspicion. The prime contractor may not terminate the contract with the subcontractor if the violation has been resolved. The prime contractor may not incur any civil liberty, but they've been given time, they've been investigated, been given 48 hours to respond and correct the problem. I want to talk about the number of violations that were seen by the commissioner in the last 5 years. In fiscal year 17, there were 936 prevailing wage and living wage violations. In 18, 1,397. In 19, 1,230. In 20, 1,394. And in 21, 887. This came from the Department of Labor. I'm not creating these numbers. I also want to talk about a case that happened in 2019 that finally got resolved this year in 21 after going to court, where a subcontractor was requiring each of his employees to pay him back $200 a week so they could stay on the job. These are the kind of issues that we're trying to resolve. And maybe with a bill like this, we won't have over 1,000 violations a year. Maybe this will create some contractors to say, we better be careful. We're doing the correct classification and paying the correct prevailing wage. I ask that you support overriding this veto. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. All right, question before the body, shall the bill pass notwithstanding the objections of the Chief Executive? Any further discussion? If green vote will be to override the governor's veto, red vote to sustain. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? Chair recognizes Senator for District 5.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to touch on one point. My friend from Harford County just talked about the injustice that can be done if you're the one who gets shut down. But it's also, Bill, you could be that subcontractor on that project and somebody else has an issue that makes you have to shut down and lose funds. The second thing I'd like to just illustrate with this short time for explaining my vote, and I'm proud to vote to sustain the governor's veto on this. My friend from Anne Arundel County, the bill sponsor, and I know she is sincere about trying to stop abuse and violations, but the comment about the amendment gives them 48 hours. Government can't get its pants on in 48 hours. But the private sector, you're going to give them 48 hours. That's one part of the bill. Just to me, this is taking a bazooka to a housefly of a problem. And I think it's going to cause a lot of problems for small businesses and especially the kind of small businesses we're trying to encourage in this state that do a lot of government contracts. So that's why my vote is red in support of the governor's veto.
Thank you, Senator. Any further senators wish to explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 31 votes in the affirmative, the bill shall pass. Senate Bill 1 will pass notwithstanding the objections of the Chief Executive. Clerk will read the message.
By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate today, notwithstanding the objections of the Governor, voted to override the veto on Senate Bill 1. Said bill is sent to you for your consideration by order Nicole Alexander, Secretary of the Senate.
Message having been read is adopted. Let's go to veto calendar 4. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 259, Senator Feldman, procurement, prevailing wage applicability.
All right, Senators, Senate Bill 259. Question is, shall the bill pass notwithstanding the objections of the Chief Executive? Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 31 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 259 shall pass, notwithstanding the objections of the Chief Executive. Clerk will read the message.
by the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate today, notwithstanding the objections of the Governor, voted to override the veto on Senate Bill 259. Said bill is sent to you for your consideration by order Nicole M. Alexander, Secretary of the Senate.
Message having been read is adopted. We'll go to calendar number 5. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 514, Senator Veto, Transportation Investment Program, MARC Rail Service, Maryland Regional Rail Transformation Act.
All right, Senate Bill 514 is on third reader for final passage. Excuse me, it is not on third reader for final passage. That is incorrect. The question before the body is, shall the bill pass notwithstanding the objections of the Chief Executive? Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 31 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 514 will pass, notwithstanding the objections of the Chief Executive. Clerk will read the message.
by the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate today, notwithstanding the objections of the Governor, voted to override the veto on Senate Bill 514. Said bill is sent to you for your consideration by order Nicole M. Alexander, Secretary of the Senate.
Message having been read is adopted. All right, Senators, that does it for the vetoes that we have in our possession right now. So we will send those 5 over, and when we get the other ones, we'll take them up. Hopefully they come quickly. We'll see. All right, let's do some of these messages to send over to the House. We've got a message on, where is this? House Bill 27. Clerk will read the bill. Oh, clerk will read the first message, excuse me.
House Bill 27, Delegate Lukey, Historic Revitalization and Enterprise Zone Tax Credits, Alterations and Eligibility. By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refuses to concur in the Senate amendments and respectfully requests the Senate recede from the position. Should the Senate prefer a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the 2 houses, the House appoints Delegate Lukey chair, Delegate Feldmark, Delegate Long. Said bill is returned herewith by order Sylvia Siegert, Chief Clerk.
All right, message having been read is ordered journalized. Clerk will read the next message.
By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate does not recede in the Senate amendments and agrees to a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the 2 houses. The House has appointed Delegate Lukey, Chairman, Delegate Feldmark, Delegate Long. The Senate appoints Senator McCray, Chair, Senator Gazzoni, Senator Eckert. Said bill is returned herewith by order Nicole Alexander, Secretary.
Message having been read is adopted. All right, we've got another one. The clerk will read the message for House Bill 1100.
House Bill 1100, Delegate Queen, Child Care Providers and Employees Bonuses. By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refuses to concur in the Senate amendments and respectfully requests the Senate recede from its position. Should the Senate prefer a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the 2 houses, the House appoints Delegate Ebersol, Chair, Delegate C. Branch, Delegate Wilkins. Said bill is returned herewith by order Sylvia Siegert, Chief Clerk.
Message having been read is ordered journalized. Clerk will read the next message.
By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate does not recede in the Senate amendments and agrees to a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the 2 houses. The House has appointed Delegate Ebersol, Chairman, Delegate C. Branch, Delegate Wilkins. The Senate appoints Senator King, Chair, Senator Gazzoni, Senator Edwards. Said bill is returned herewith by order Nicole Alexander, Secretary.
Message having been read, is adopted. We've got one more message. Get these conference committees started. This is for House Bill 153. The clerk will read the first message.
House Bill 153, Delegate Crutchfield, Criminal Law, Sexual Crimes, Repeal of Spousal Defense. By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refuses to concur in the Senate amendments and respectfully requests the Senate recede from its position. Should the Senate prefer a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the House appoints Delegate Shetty, Chair, Delegate Bartlett, Delegate Crutchfield. Said bill is returned herewith by order. Sylvia Seeger, Chief Clerk.
Message having been read is adopted. Clerk will read the next message.
By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate does not recede in the Senate amendments and agrees to a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses. The House has appointed Delegate Shetty, Chairman, Delegate Bartlett, Delegate Crutchfield. The Senate appoints Senator Lee, Chair, Senator Heddleman, Senator Signor. Said bill is returned herewith by order. Nicole Alexander, Secretary.
Message having been read is adopted. All right, we have two veto overrides that have arrived. So let's go to the first one, which is House Bill 90. Clerk will read the message.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates has voted to override the governor's veto of House Bill 90. Said bill is sent to you for your consideration by order. Sylvia Seeger, Chief Clerk.
The message is adopted. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 90, Delegate Henson, State Personnel Management System, Office of the Public Defender, Placement and Collective Bargaining.
All right, Senators, House Bill 90. The question before the body is, shall the bill pass, notwithstanding the objections of the Chief Executive? If we could ring the bells, Madam Secretary. Any discussion? Chair recognizes the Senator from 34th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, unionizing lawyers does not lead to better lawyers. Doesn't lead to better lawyers. It's going to make for a less capable workforce. Throughout our government system, lawyers are able to be terminated. It doesn't make sense. It's an art. You shouldn't hold folks to a different standard. And I think the long term, this will slowly but surely degrade the quality, and I think that's a shame. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Any further? Chair recognizes the Senator from Montgomery County.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, and I would ask that we please override the governor's veto on this bill. This bill simply provides the hardworking women and men in the Office of the Public Defender's Office to have the opportunity, if they so choose, to engage a collective bargaining unit to represent them. If they are satisfied with how things are in the office now, if they're content, if the working conditions are satisfactory now, then nothing changes from the way it is today. However, this does afford them that opportunity if they are seeking change to improve their working conditions, to have that chance to do so. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. All right, question is, shall the bill pass notwithstanding the objections of the Chief Executive? A green vote will override, a red vote will sustain. If there's no further discussion, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 31 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 90 shall pass, notwithstanding the objections of the Chief Executive. Clerk will read the message.
Ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate of Maryland has voted to override the governor's veto of House Bill 90. Said bill is returned to the House herewith, having been enacted under Article 2, Section 17 of the Constitution of Maryland by order Nicole M. Alexander, Secretary of the Senate.
Message having been read is adopted. All right, we've got another one. This is for House Bill 580. Clerk will read the message.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates has voted to override the governor's veto of House Bill 580. Said bill is sent to you for your consideration by order Sylvia Seeger, Chief Clerk.
Message having been read is ordered journalized. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 580, Delegate P. Young, Maryland Transit Administration Police Collective Bargaining Supervisors and Sergeants.
All right, the question before the body is, shall the bill pass notwithstanding the objections of the Chief Executive? Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 31 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 580 will pass notwithstanding the objections of the Chief Executive. The clerk will read the message.
by the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate of Maryland has voted to override the Governor's veto of House Bill 580. Said bill is returned to the House herewith, having been enacted under Article 2, Section 17 of the Constitution of Maryland by order Nicole M. Alexander, Secretary of the Senate.
Message having been read is adopted. All right, let's go to a not concur. Not concur, get this over there. This is message from the House number 28. 28. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 704, Senator Heddleman, conditions of pretrial release, home detention monitoring, alterations, and extension.
I think we have to take up the House amendments first. If I'm, we're on a not concur, correct? So, Chair will recognize the Chair of the Judicial Proceedings Committee on the House amendments.
Oh, you're right.
Thank you, Mr. President. The motion is not to concur.
Senator moves to, the Chair moves to not concur with the House amendments. Do we have that, Madam Secretary, on the board for, I think we have to take the not concur motion first. Correct? Okay. Well, all right. On the House amendments, is there any objections to the motion to not concur? Without objection, the Senate does not concur with the House amendments. Clerk will read the message.
By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate refuses to concur in the House amendments and respectfully requests the House recede from its position. Should the House prefer a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the Senate appoints Senator Heddleman Chair, Senator Carter, Senator Bailey. Said bill is returned herewith by order Nicole Alexander, Secretary.
All right, message having been read is adopted. We've got another not concur. This is on calendar number 30. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 33, Senator Lee, Criminal Law, Sexual Crimes, Fourth Degree Sexual Offense, and Spousal Defense, JPR.
All right, Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee on the House amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. The motion is not to concur.
All right, the Chairman moves to not concur with the House amendments. Are there any objections to the Chairman's motion? Without objection, the House amendments are rejected. The clerk will read the message.
By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate refuses to concur in the House amendments and respectfully requests the House recede from its position. Should the House prefer a conference committee to confirm the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the Senate appoints Senator Lee Chair, Senator Heddleman, Senator Signor. Said bill is returned herewith by order Nicole Alexander, Secretary.
All right, we have we continue to have some conference committees here, so I know this is not the most thrilling part, but we've got to get them going sooner the better. We've got House Bill 1202. Clerk will read the first message.
House Bill 1202, Delegate P. Young, Local Government Cybersecurity Coordination and Operations, Local Cybersecurity Support Act of 2022. By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refused to concur in the Senate amendments and respectfully requests the Senate recede from its position. Should the Senate prefer a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of two houses, the House appoints Delegate Rosenberg, Chair, Delegate Kipke, Delegate Sample Hughes. Said bill is returned herewith by order Sylvia Siegert, Chief Clerk.
All right, message having been read is adopted. Clerk will read the next message. We are setting up our side of the conference committee. Do we have a substitute message?
Mr. President, we move not to recede and recommend a conference committee.
Okay. Clerk will read the Senate's message.
By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate does not recede in the Senate amendment and agrees to a conference committee to confirm disagreeing votes of the two houses. The House has appointed Delegate Rosenberg, Chairman, Delegate Kipke, Delegate Sample Hughes. The Senate appoints Senator Pinsky, Chair, Senator Hester, Senator Washington. Said bill is returned herewith by order Nicole Alexander, Secretary.
The message having been read is adopted. We've got another one, two more actually. So this is going to be on House Bill 993. Clerk will read the House message.
House Bill 993, Delegate Ebersol, Child Care Capital Support Revolving Loan Fund established. By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refuses to concur in the Senate amendments and respectfully requests the Senate recede from its position. Should the Senate prefer a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the House appoints Delegate Ebersol, Chair, Delegate Wilkins, Delegate Long. Said bill is returned herewith by order Sylvia Siegert, Chief Clerk.
Message having been read is journalized. Clerk will read the next message.
By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate does not recede in the Senate amendments and agrees to a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses. The House has appointed Delegate Ebersol, Chairman, Delegate Wilkins, Delegate Long. The Senate appoints Senator King, Chair, Senator Elfreth, Senator Gazzoni. Said bill is returned herewith by order Nicole Alexander, Secretary.
All right, message having been read is adopted. All right, we have a message, we've got another one, 1346. Clerk will read the first message.
House Bill 1346, Delegate P. Young, State Government, Cybersecurity, Coordination, and Governance. By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refuses to concur in the Senate amendments and respectfully requests the Senate recede from its position. Should the Senate prefer a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the House appoints Delegate Rosenberg, Chair, Delegate Kipke, Delegate Sample Hughes. Said bill is returned herewith by order Sylvia Siegert, Chief Clerk.
Message having been read is ordered journalized. Before we read that message, actually, I think we're going to hold on this message. We want to take a look at the conference committee makeup on this one, so we will come back to it when we have a different conference committee group.
Okay, wait a minute.
Yeah. All right. We are going to not concur here. We have a message from the House, number 29. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 452, Senator Smith, Small Claims Examination and Aid of Enforcement Prohibition, JPR.
Senate Bill 452, the motion is to concur. Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee concurs with the House amendments.
All right. All right. The question is on the House amendments. Any discussion of the House amendments? Any objections? Without objection, the Senate concurs with the House amendments. Senate Bill 452 is now again before the body on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 452, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. We've got another concurrence. Oh, no, we have a layover bill. They keep coming. All right, we have a not concur. This is on calendar 33 out of Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 195, Chair, Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs Committee. State Board of Examiners of Psychologists, Sunset Extension, EHE.
All right, Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. We still disagree. We will not concur and suggest that the House recede.
All right, the Senate will moves to not concur with the House amendments. Any objections to the motion? Without objection, The Senate rejects the House amendments. Clerk will read the message.
By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate refuses to concur in the House amendments and respectfully requests the House recede from its position. Said bill is returned herewith by order Nicole Alexander, Secretary.
Message having been read is adopted. We've got a concurrent calendar out of Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs. This is Calendar 31. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 79, Senator Bailey, Higher Education, Senatorial Scholarships, Program Accreditation, EHE.
All right. Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee.
Yes, Mr. President. The House took our bill and extended it to cover the House delegate scholarships as well as the Senate, introduced by the senator from St. Mary's County. We concur. It helps the bill, doesn't hurt.
All right. The Chairman moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any objections? Without objection, the Senate concurs with the House amendments. Senate Bill 79 is now again before the body on third reader for final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 79, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 133, Senator Washington, State Board for the Certification of Residential Child Care Program Professionals, Membership and Official Seal, EHE.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee.
Mr. President, the House reinstated one of the pieces of the bill that we cut out. We have no objection. We move to concur.
All right. Chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 133 is again before the Senate on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 133, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 163, Senator Kagan, Election Law Ballots Processing and Reporting Procedures. This is an emergency bill, EHE.
Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is about processing and reporting of our election and balloting procedures. Okay, I'm taking off the mask. The amendments conform the bill so that Senate Bill 163 and House Bill 862 are identical. EHE will concur.
All right, the Vice Chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion on the amendments? Any objections? Without objection, the amendments are adopted. Question now, Senate Bill 163 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 31 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 163, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 478, Senator Hester, Career and Technical Education Committee Alterations, EHE.
Senate Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee.
Mr. President, the House made two structural changes to the makeup of the workforce. We think they do no harm. We move to concur with the amendment.
All right, the Chair moves that the Senate concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 478 is now again before the Senate on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 478, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 510, Senator Bidle, Anne Arundel County Board of Education Member Compensation, EHE.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee.
Mr. President, the House amendment simply reduces the compensation for the board member. We move to concur.
All right. Chairman moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 510 is now again before the body on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 510, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 617, Senator Zucker, Local School Systems, Equivalent Access Standards, Digital Tools, Equivalent and Non-Visual Access Accountability Act for K through 12 Education.
All right.
EHE.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Mr. President, the House amendment requires primary consideration be given to the pedagogical value of digital tools that are being considered. We think it helps the bill. We move to concur.
All right, the chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion on the amendments? Any objections? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 617 is now again before the body on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? Chair recognizes the senator from the 14th district.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, this is going to be really significant positive impact on individuals with developmental differences and children that are blind, to make sure they have access to resources that some of us take for granted who don't have these differences. But, Mr. President, when we had this bill in front of us, we talked about that you don't have to be an elected office to be a public servant, and I just want to recognize one of those people. Ross Seidman, sir, from your office, has done an incredible job with this, and I also appreciate your interest in this as well, sir. So thank you, and proud to be voting green on this.
Thank you, Senator. Any further senators wish to explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 617, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 920, Senator King, Early Childhood Development Child Care Scholarship Program Alterations, EHE.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Mr. President, these amendments will conform Senate Bill 920 before you to HB 995 that was passed on second reading earlier in the Senate. It simply allows for presumptive eligibility for applicants who apply. Move that the Senate concur.
Chairman moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 920 is now again before the body on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 920, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Let's see what we have here. All right, we have a concurrence out of B and T. This is calendar number 32, message 32. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 9, Senator West, Procurement, Minority Business Enterprises Study, B&T.
Chair recognizes the chair on the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. The House amendments make clarifying changes to the requirements to provide information to MDOT. The committee concurs. Move to concur.
All right, the chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 9 is now again before the body on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 9, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 250, Senator Hayes, State Procurement, Payment Practices, B&T.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The amendments put the bill in the same posture as House Bill 325 is passed unanimously by the Senate. The amendments make interest on unpaid invoices due and payable after 37 days and clarifies the report date for the Do It report. Move to concur.
Chairman moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections with the chairman's motion? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 250 is again before the body on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 250, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 289, Senator McCray, Historic Revitalization Tax Credit, Funding and Extension, B&T.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The House amendments make certain adjustments to credits under the program, reduces the amount that is required to be appropriated in the program each year, extends the number of years certain taxpayers are eligible for the enterprise zone tax credit, and the committee concurs. Move to concur.
Chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 289 is again before the body on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 289, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 314, Senator Rosapep, Income Tax Mechanical Installation Tax Credit.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The House amendments turn this program into a grant. The House, the budget text concurs. Move to concur.
All right, Chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion on the amendments? Any objections? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 314 is again before the Senate on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 314, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 847, Senator Edwards, Libraries Capital Projects, State Share Adjustments, B&T.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. House amendments add a 3-year sunset to the bill. Move to concur.
Chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Question now is Senate Bill 847, which is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 847, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Is that all of them? I think so. All right, let's go a layover calendar. Layover calendar number 63. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 862, Delegate Feldmark, Election Law, Ballot Canvassing, Multiple Ballots Cast by an Individual. Questions on the adoption of the committee amendments and the favorable report.
All right, question is on the two committee amendments. Any discussion of the committee amendments? If not, any objections? Without objection, the two committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable report as amended. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Chair recognizes the minority whip with an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have an amendment.
All right, the
I'll
secretary
wait for
will
it to be
collect
distributed.
the amendment. Just one moment. Let's get it loaded up. Senator may explain the amendment.
I consider this a friendly amendment, Mr. President. This amendment, we have a little bit of a loophole in our state law that is, I know, unintentional. It is against the law, obviously, for people to vote. It should be for people to vote in multiple general elections, in a general election in 2 states. You can't vote in, if you have a house in Florida and a house in Maryland, you can't vote in both states in the general election. But our state law is not clear on that point. And because of this lack of clarity, I've introduced legislation twice now, but because of this lack of clarity, it keeps us from prosecuting if someone votes in Maryland and another state, whereas other states can prosecute. We had this bill was actually, the bill I put in was brought to me by my local Board of Elections because we had a couple of cases, or one particular case in our county where someone had been found to have voted in West Virginia and Maryland in the general election, and we couldn't prosecute them. It's happened multiple times as far as not being able to prosecute. So this amendment would simply just add to this bill that make it clear that you cannot, a person, it would add to this language. The current law is a person may not willfully and knowingly, there's things like impersonate another person, vote or attempt to vote under a false name. This would add in cast a ballot in a general election in more than one state in the same year. So I think it's a nice little, just a good technical amendment, change to the law to be sure, or change to be sure that it's clear in the law, and that, so that we can prosecute when this does happen, and it does happen occasionally. So I would move my amendment, Mr. President.
All right, Senator moves the amendment. Chair recognizes the Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. President. The senator from District 5 is very friendly, especially when his kids are around, but this is not a friendly amendment. First off, we've got something called ERIC, which Maryland was a founding member of, the Electronic Research Information Center, which updates our voter lists and tells when folks have moved states. We are not having, there's no evidence of any longstanding problem or widespread problem in this issue, on this issue, and we just passed and conformed the Senate bill, so I would reject this amendment.
All right.
Mr. President.
Floor leader moves that we reject the amendment. Chair recognizes the senator from District 10, who has not yet spoken.
I just wondered, the person could, in fact, live in one state in January and be in a different state as a legal resident in November. And so, while I understand your intent, I think we could have technical difficulties that would cause a legally voting person who moves during the course of an election year to not be able to vote where they live in the general election.
All right. On the amendment, are there any senators who have not yet spoken who wish to speak? If not, Chair recognizes the maker of the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just in response to that, that's why this is very clear about 2 general elections in the same year, which can only be in November. So that's, it's not, you actually can legally vote in a primary and then move to another state and vote in that primary. That is allowed. But in the general election, you can't. But we want to make it clear. And just to say, I know we have a system that tries to catch and cross-check, but this does happen from time to time. And all this amendment does is just allow us to prosecute if someone does it on purpose. It would allow for it to be clear in our law that you cannot vote in 2 general elections in the same year. And it is not. There was testimony in our committee, in the committee, not my committee, in the committee, when I presented the bill. The State Board of Elections did not take a position on this bill, but they were questioned, and they did acknowledge that this is a hole in the law. So this is not a gotcha like amendment or anything like that. I just think it would be a nice clarification that we could make sure this gets taken care of in the law. So I would ask for a roll call, Mr. President.
All right. Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from District 6.
Thank you, Mr. President. I support the amendment because if you think about people that live out of state, close by, they live maybe in Pennsylvania, they live in Virginia, they live close by, they work in Maryland, and they might have a resident here. So just thinking of that, you know, it's an opportunity for people to do this. It's not saying they're going to do it, but they might do it. It's an idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. All right. Questions on the amendment? Senators requested a roll call vote. If there's no further discussion, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? Chair recognizes the senator from Montgomery County, 14th District, to explain his vote.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I feel like the floor leader really explained, you know, how deliberate the process was within committee. That they want to make sure that, you know, obviously our elections are being protected, but this is not the right amendment for this piece of legislation, and I'm proud to vote no on it. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Are there any further senators who wish to explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 27 votes in the negative, the senator's amendment fails. Chair recognizes the minority whip has an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have another amendment. I did not plan to have my family here lobbying when I was going to offer these amendments, but they are wonderful people, and they would love for you to support these amendments. I'm trying to secure elections for the future, Mr. President, for our future, our children, and absolutely, we need to secure the elections. That's right, for our children, for all our children.
Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. This amendment harkens back to a debate and a discussion we've had, I think, over the last couple years as we talk about election security. And currently in Maryland, there is no law appreciably governing ballot harvesting. The issue of ballot harvesting sort of burst onto the scene in the last couple of years. There was a famous case in North Carolina of a Republican congressman, actually, whose campaign he had to resign because he could never take office because his campaign was found to have engaged in some unlawful ballot harvesting. There's been some other cases of it. Our law is basically either silent or unclear. We had debate last year that basically said you pretty much can go pick up as many completed ballots as you want to, generally speaking, as long as you're not coercing somebody. So what this amendment seeks to add to this bill is just a very simple provision that would say that except as provided in subsection B of the section, a person may not pick up and deliver more than 10 absentee ballots unless, and on the back of the amendment is, the person can pick more up if they are a duly authorized agent. We had a debate about what makes a duly authorized agent in the past. You can be a duly authorized agent for someone to be there to pick up their ballot. But this just says you can't be picking up completed absentee ballots and more than 10 of them. We don't want people going around communities when ballots are getting mailed out. Now that we're moving to more and more mail-in ballots, we don't want people going around representing themselves from, whether it's from a party or an organization, and saying, I can collect your ballot and take it for you in mass. You don't want that unregulated happening, and it does, and it will happen more and more as we move to more mail-in voting. So I would move my amendment and ask for a roll call, Mr. President, on this, once again, friendly amendment.
Senator moves the amendment. Chair recognizes the Vice Chair on the amendment.
Once again, the senator has a well-intentioned amendment, but once again, the committee is going to ask the body to reject it.
Good.
Again, there's no evidence of a problem. There are large families. There are also maybe people who are confined to a home or a nursing home, and it may be a good public service to just grab a bunch of your neighbors' ballots already completed, already sealed, already signed the oath, and just drop them at the local drop-off box. Urge a rejection of this amendment.
All right, on the amendment, Chair recognizes the senator from the 35th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to rise in support of this amendment. You know, being able to do 10 seems like a very reasonable number, and this is kind of a new thing. We haven't seen this level of mail-in balloting until you know, recently when we had to deal with the COVID pandemic, and that's why we've gone from you know, very maybe minimal mail-in to a huge amount of mail-in balloting. And my main concern, without putting guardrails on something like this, is, you know, you have campaign workers that go out and they could, you know, go into a facility, say like a nursing home or something, and really put pressure on folks. This, to me, would put a common sense guardrail in to try to keep those kind of things from happening. And 10 it seems to be a very reasonable number. I think if you get above that, that's getting kind of high. So I would like to vote green and urge my colleagues to support this very reasonable amendment. Thank you.
All right, on the amendment, if there's no further discussion, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 30 votes in the negative, the senator's amendment fails. Chair recognizes the minority whip as an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. I saved the
time's a
best.
charm.
Save the best for last, Mr. President. Save the best for last.
Is it a new redistricting plan?
I'll get on the phone and order that right away.
All right, Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Currently in our state, when you show up to vote in person, you give your name or a name, and the poll workers will look in their poll books and check off the name and say, good, and they'll give you what you need to go and cast your ballot inside. There is no check on anybody, what their name is, other than their good word that they are who they say they are. We have thousands and thousands of names on our voter rolls of people who don't vote or who very rarely vote, which of course is their right. But the voting rolls are totally accessible to anybody to get names of people. I can go today and try to obtain a list of names of people who are registered to vote. You know, I could go get a list of every Republican in Maryland that's registered to vote but hasn't voted in the last 4 elections. Obviously, or you could do it for either party or unaffiliated or anybody. So there's no check to make sure that when you show up and give a name that you are who you say you are. So some states have pretty stringent voter ID laws. Some states have nothing, which is basically what we have. What I've sought to do, and I think this is something that our Republican caucus has put forward as a way to add additional security and make sure that people are who they say they are, we have a proposal, and this is an amendment, that would establish a voter ID for voting in person. However, this is not as far-reaching a proposal as some states. This is not, this amendment would allow you to use your driver's license or state-issued ID card. It would allow you to issue your state ID if you're a state worker. It would allow you to utilize lots of different forms of ID, including non-photo ID. It would allow you to use, and on the second page of the amendment, it would require you to present either a current government-issued photo ID. You could use a utility bill, bank statement, government check, a paycheck, the sample ballot, the specimen ballot that every voter is mailed. And so it's a very broad amendment just to have a little bit of additional security on the front end when people vote in person, so that we don't have an issue of people going and harvesting and voting in someone's name. And I can tell you candidly, I've had anecdotally people reach out to me and say they went to go vote and somebody had voted in their name, and I generally have, when I've looked into it a couple times, it was an accident or somebody in another county checked their name off, whatever. But this would be a nice additional check. It would provide additional security for our elections, especially as we move more and more to voting voting early, voting in places that are not your traditional sort of home precinct. So I would move my amendment and ask for a roll call, Mr. President.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the floor leader on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this is a voter disenfranchised bill.
Amendment.
Too often, people of color...
Amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is yeah, definitely the amendment. Too often, elderly voters, lower income voters, voters of color, statistically don't have access to a government issue ID, might forget to bring their utility bill, might not have a utility bill. I'm just going to read briefly from opposing testimony for Senate Bill 532 that our wonderful Attorney General Brian Frosch indicated, which said that this bill presents a solution in search of a problem. There is no evidence that in-person voter fraud via impersonating someone takes place at any level that would justify the inevitable disenfranchisement that the new requirements of this bill would result in. And then skipping forward a little bit, without question, some voters will forget or will be unaware of a voter ID requirement. They may then decline to vote provisionally or may fail to take steps needed to have their provisional ballot counted. So strongly resist this amendment and ask for a red vote.
All right. On the amendment, Chair recognizes the senator from the 38th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. On this amendment, of all the election issues, when I hear from my constituents, this is the one I hear the most about. Just people coming up and say, you have to show an ID for everything else, virtually everything else you do. Why wouldn't we show it when you go to vote? You know, an honor, a privilege. It would increase election integrity and voter confidence. It's so basic, and I just wanted to urge a favorable vote for this amendment, a common sense amendment, simply showing voter ID so that there would be more confidence and integrity in our voting.
All right. On the amendment, any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 28 votes in the negative, the senator's amendment fails. Chair recognizes the senator from the 27th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not sure if this is the proper time. I've voted erroneously on a couple amendments back. Want to change your vote on that?
Do we know the amendment number?
Yes, sir.
All right. What was the amendment number, Senator?
Amendment number 303226.
Okay, 26. From
Green to red.
green to red. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. All right, where are we? House Bill 862 is now open to any further amendments to the bill or its title. Seeing none, House Bill 862 is ordered passed for third reading. Let's go to the committee, Judicial Proceedings Committee. We've got report number 46. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 244, Delegate Moon, Civil Actions, Damages, Use of Race, Ethnicity, and Gender Data, favorable.
All right. Let's
Excuse special order to the end of the calendar.
Chairman moves the special order this to the end of the calendar. Clerk will read the next bill. Madam Clerk, the next one.
House Bill 521, Delegate Pena Melnick, Landlord and Tenant Repossession for Failure to Pay Rent, Shielding of Court Records, favorable.
All right. Chair recognizes the senator from District 11 as the floor leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This bill authorizes a tenant to petition a court to shield court records relating to any action for repossession for failure to pay rent if the failure to pay rent was due to a loss of income arising out of the COVID-19 pandemic. A petition may not be filed until the appeal period for the action has lapsed. The bill's provisions only apply to court records and failure to pay rent actions that were filed on or after March 5th, 2020, but before January 1, 2022. The bill does not apply to any record relating to an action for repossession for failure to pay rent that resulted in a money judgment in favor of a landlord unless the petitioner provides evidence to the court that the judgment has been satisfied. There are no committee amendments. I move for the favorable adoption of the committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objection? Yes, Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th District.
Just real quick for the floor leader. So it really only applies to, I think, this 9 months, right? That's 9 months, March until the following January. It had to be a rent case during those 9 months, nothing or outside of those, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you very much.
All right. Any further discussion? Any objections to the report? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 521 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1023, the Speaker. DLS, collection of information related to public safety, criminal justice, corrections, and juvenile services, favorable.
Chair recognizes Chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a departmental bill, and it requires specified executive agencies to submit annually to the Department of Legislative Services information relating to public safety and criminal justice, and it requires those agencies to enter into MOUs with DLS to provide that information. There are no committee amendments, and move adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1023 is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1076, Delegate Wyville, Vehicle Laws, Electronic or Digital 24-hour Registration, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th District as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, we've all had that situation, not all of us, but a lot of us had that situation where you buy a vehicle that's not tagged yet, and you want to just move it from the guy's house you sold it to your own home and move it along, but do that legally. This simply provides the ability to do that, obtain a temporary vehicle license, a registration, excuse me, so you can move the vehicle over the road. There was no amendments, and I move the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1076 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1143, Allegheny County Delegation, Allegheny County and Garrett County all-terrain vehicles and snowmobiles, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from District 4.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This bill expands the definition of all-terrain vehicle in the vehicles and the provisions governing the use of all-terrain vehicles. This is for Allegheny and Garrett County, basically to include off-highway motorcycles. Additionally, the bill expands the area of road from 2 to 5 miles on which Allegheny and Garrett County may authorize all-terrain vehicles and snowmobiles to operate. There are no committee amendments. I move the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1143 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. We'll go back to the special order for the bill that was put to the end of this calendar. I believe it was HB 244. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 244, Delegate Moon, Civil Actions, Damages, Use of Race, Ethnicity, and Gender Data, Favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 23rd District as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill is identical to its cross-file bill, which passed the Senate unanimously 43-0. This bill prohibits the calculation of damages for loss of earnings resulting from personal injury or wrongful death from being reduced based on race, ethnicity, or gender. The bill applies prospectively to causes of action arising on or after October 1st, 2022, effective date. There are no committee amendments. I move favorable of the committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 244 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Sticking with judicial proceedings, we've got one bill in this report, number 47. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 833, Delegate Learman, Criminal Law, Victims of Child Sex Trafficking and Human Trafficking, Safe Harbor and Service Response, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the majority whip as the floor leader.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. As amended, this bill alters procedures that a law enforcement officer must follow when there's a reason to believe that a child has been detained as a victim of sex trafficking or a victim of human trafficking, and 2, in a criminal prosecution against a minor or in a proceeding against a delinquent child under Title III, Subtitle A8 of the Court's article for a qualifying offense as defined in the bill, a violation as defined in the bill, or an offense under Section 3-1102 of the criminal law article, that dealing with sex trafficking. It is an affirmative defense of duress if the defendant or child committed the act as a result of being the victim of another under specified state or federal prohibitions against human trafficking, and adds offenses to lists of qualifying offenses for which a person may file a motion to vacate the judgment if a person's participation was a direct result of being a victim of human trafficking. There are 2 amendments. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 strikes provisions of the bill and establishes specified affirmative defense. Move favorable the favorable committee report with the 2 amendments.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 833 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. We have another report, the Senate version of this bill. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 768, Senator Lee, Criminal Law, Victims of Child Sex Trafficking, Safe Harbor and Service Response, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the majority whip as the floor leader.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. SB 768 is identical to the HB 833 amendments that we just indicated. As before, it is identical. There are 2 amendments. One's technical. Amendment number 2 conforms the bill to HB 833 as amended by the Judicial Proceedings Committee. Move favorable the committee report with the amendments.
All right, floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments in the favorable committee report. Any discussion on the amendments? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 768 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. We have the message for a conference committee on 1346. Clerk will reread the first message.
House Bill 1346, Delegate P. Young, State Government Cybersecurity Coordination and Governance. By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refuses to concur in the Senate amendments and respectfully requests the Senate recede from its position. Should the Senate prefer a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the 2 houses, the House appoints Delegate Rosenberg Chair, Delegate Kipke, Delegate Sample Hughes. Said bill is returned herewith by order Sylvia Siegert, Chief Clerk.
Message having been read is adopted. Clerk will read the next message.
By Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate does not recede in the Senate amendments and agrees to a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses. House has appointed Delegate Rosenberg chairman, Delegate Kipke, Delegate Sample Hughes. The Senate appoints Senator Pinsky chair, Senator Hester, Senator Riley. Said bill is returned herewith by order Nicole Alexander, secretary.
Message having been read is adopted. All right, back to JPR. We've got Report 49.
House Bill 1062, Delegate Moon, Criminal Law, Animal Cruelty, Petition for Costs for Care of Seized Animal, favorable with 4 amendments.
Chair recognizes Vice Chair of the Committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill establishes procedures for an officer of a humane society or a police officer or other public official required to protect animals to petition the district court to order the owner or custodian of an animal that has been seized to protect it from cruelty or for its health to pay for the reasonable costs of caring for that animal. The bill also modifies existing procedures authorizing the removal or seizure of an animal to protect it from cruelty. There are 4 committee amendments. Amendment number 1 alters notice provisions. Amendment number 2 provides for continued possession and costs for caring for livestock. Amendment number 3 adds cross references. Amendment number 4 adds a provision providing for a court to determine whether continued possession of an animal by a petitioner is warranted. I move the 4 committee amendments and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 4 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 4 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1062 is hereby ordered passed for 3rd reading. We've got a special order calendar of a Senate bill here. We want to get this moving. Number 93. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 858, Senator Gazzoni, Gaming, Electronic Instant Bingo Machines, maximum number of machines. Questions on the adoption of the committee amendments and the favorable report.
All right, question is on the adoption of the committee amendments and the favorable report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Any Chair on the report, any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Chair recognizes the senator from Montgomery County.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. There's already an amendment at the desk.
Excellent. Thank you, Senator. Let's get it loaded up here. Cool. If Senator may explain the amendment.
Great. Even though the amendment's under my name, Mr. President, it's a committee amendment. It just modifies some of the numbers. It just strikes 225 and 300 and substitutes it with 250 and 295. I would move the committee amendment.
All right. The Senator moves the amendment. Are there any objections to the committee amendment? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title?
Mr. President?
Yes.
At the appropriate time, I'd like to suspend the rules to have 2 readings on the same day.
We will have to get the bill printed. It's a Senate bill. So
Okay.
we'll have to wait and see if we get it back in time with
No
the amendment printed
Thank you.
in.
Thank you, sir.
All right. If there are no further amendments, Senate Bill 858 is hereby ordered printed for 3rd reading. All right. We've got a special order calendar number 95. 95. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 118, Delegate Washington, Public Schools, Student Attendance Excused Absences for Mental Health Needs. Questions on the adoption of the committee amendments and the favorable report.
All right. Question is on the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objection to the amendments? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Chair recognizes Senator from District 4.
Have an amendment.
Senator has an amendment. We'll collect the amendment. Just a moment.
And I apologize. I just got these amendments. So actually, this bill's been special ordered. So if it's appropriate, Mr. President, if it's appropriate, I just got the amendments so that they have time to look at it. I'd like to lay the bill and the amendment over
If the bill is not,
It's been special order. It hadn't been laid over yet.
Senator's motion is in order. The bill will be laid over for an hour or after the third reading calendar, whichever is sooner.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Let's see. We got special order calendar number 96. Do we have the floor report for this? I hope clerk will read the resolution.
House Joint Resolution 8, Delegate Resnick, Solidarity with the Government and People of Ukraine. Question is on the adoption of the favorable report.
All right. Chair recognizes the Chair of the Rules Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate's Rule Report number 10. And thank you, Mr. President. The Rules Committee met this yesterday afternoon and unanimously voted in support of House Joint Resolution 8. House Joint Resolution 8 is the cross-file of Senate Joint Resolution 11, which unanimously passed the Senate earlier this session. It makes it clear that the state of Maryland stands in solidarity with the government and the people of Ukraine. I move adoption of House Joint Resolution 8.
All right, the chair of the committee moves that we adopt the favorable committee report for the joint resolution. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the resolution or its title? Seeing none, House Joint Resolution 8 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Okay, let's go back to Education, Health, Environmental Affairs. This is report number 71. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 291, Delegate Kaiser, Election Law, Contested Elections, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Yes, Mr. President, this bill simply is identical to Senate Bill 101, which passed nearly unanimously in the Senate. It establishes thresholds and parameters, guidelines on fundraising and payment of recounts in close elections. And so I would, there are 2 amendments. The first one makes technical changes. The second one amends, strikes the House amendment, restores the bill to its original posture. So move the adoption of the favorable report with 2 amendments.
All right, the senator moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. The question now is on the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is amended, is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 291 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 318, Delegate Stein, Environment, On-Site Wastewater Services, Regulation, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from District 9 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hold on with it. Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, House Bill 318 establishes the State Board of On-Site Wastewater Professionals as a unit within the Maryland Department of Environment to regulate and license individuals who provide on-site wastewater services in the state. The department must adopt implementing regulations in consultation with the board by July 1st of 2025. To support the board's operations, the bill establishes the On-Site Wastewater Professionals Fund. There are no committee amendments. I urge the adoption of the favorable committee report.
The floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 318 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 514, Charles County Delegation, Charles County Natural Resources, Sunday Hunting, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Mr. President, as we did yesterday with, I think, 6 counties on the Eastern Shore, we're adding Charles County to that number. It will allow Charles County to have hunting on Sundays 30 minutes after sunrise to 10:30 a.m., leave the rest of the day for other people who would like to enjoy the outdoors. Move adoption of the 2 same commitments we added to the other 5 or 6 bills. Approve the 2 amendments in favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments in the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections on the to the amendments? If not, the amendments, without objection, the amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objection? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 514 is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 603, Harford County Delegation, Harford County Board of Education, appointment of members, alterations, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 35th District has the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill deals with the Harford County School Board and makes changes to the members on there. Harford County is one of the jurisdictions has a hybrid school board. This would simply replace the 3 appointed members would be appointed by the county executive with a supermajority approval of the county council instead of by the governor. It also, for the appointed members, it would start in 2024. They would be appointed in the presidential election years. The companion bill to this was Senate Bill 908, which passed the Senate 47-0 a few weeks ago. I move for, there were no amendments, and I move for adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 603 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1030, Delegate Smith, Maryland Higher Education Commission, procedures and operations, alterations, favorable with one amendment.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill does a number of things. It expedites award notification for the Rawlings Educational Excellence Award. It also creates a common application for a scholarship. Those of you with high school age children or have had them, nationally there's a common application if they want to apply to multiple schools. They use the same common app. Maryland wants to do the same for the multiple number of scholarships available in the state. It also allows tax information to be hooked up to their scholarship application if they need to show their family income to the state to apply for the scholarship. And finally, it also expressed the intent to consider breaking off the Student Financial Assistance Office as an independent agency from NHEC, but that's only soft language. It does not require that. Going forward, there is one amendment which does the things I just described. Move adoption of the one committee amendment and a favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Now to the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1030 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1057, Prince George's County Delegation, Prince George's County Recreation Blue Ribbon Work Group, favorable. This is an emergency bill.
Chair recognizes the senator from Prince George's as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 1057 is an emergency bill that established the Prince George's County Recreation Blue Ribbon Work Group for the purpose of conducting a study, providing recommendation to the Prince George's County Council regarding several aspects of providing recreational services in the county. The 15-member work group recommendations are due to the County Council by April 11, 2023. There are no amendments. There is no financial impact. I recommend the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1057 is hereby ordered passed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1115, Delegate Clippinger, Baltimore City, alcoholic beverages, licenses, and outdoor table service privileges, favorable. This is an emergency bill.
Chair recognizes the senator from Anne Arundel.
Thank you. This is a local Baltimore City alcohol bill, deals with hours and license fees and market license. It's identical to Senate Bill 771 that passed here unanimously. It has no amendments. I move the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1115 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. All right, we've got another one out of Education, Health, Environmental Affairs, number 73. Senate bills. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 388, Senator Jackson, Charles County, Natural Resources, Sunday hunting, favorable with 2 amendments.
Let's see. Sunday hunting. Chair recognizes the chair of the committee, the crossfile. This must be the crossfile of the prior one.
That's exactly right, Mr. President. Thank you for presenting the bill. It is a cross-file for Charles County. It's the Senate Bill 388. It has the same 2 amendments we've discussed for 2 days. Move adoption of the 2 committee amendments, favorable committee report.
Fuller moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 388 is hereby ordered printed for 3rd reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 479, Senator Hester, Environment On-Site Wastewater Services Regulation, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the bill sponsors, the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this is the cross-file to HB 318, which you just heard. There are 2 committee amendments, which basically conform Senate Bill 479 to 318. I urge the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objection? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 479 is hereby ordered printed for 3rd reading. All right, we've got some more second readers. This is Education, Health, Environmental Affairs 74. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 146, Delegate Moon, Education Reportable Offenses and Student Discipline, Children with Disabilities and Reporting, favorable with 2 amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, Chair recognizes Senator from Baltimore City.
Thank you. House Bill 146, as amended, again, it came in differently, but as amended, it allows for the attorney of a student who is involved in a related offense, in a reportable offense, to have their attorney present. There are a number, if a student with a disability is removed or excluded from the student's regular school program based on a reportable offense, after the removal period, the student has the right to, that is not correct. Okay. The 2 committee, why don't I describe the bill? Sorry about that. Let's do it this way. Okay. As the bill came in, the bill established a right for a student that is removed or excluded from their program, from their school program, based on a reportable offense to return to their program. That conflicts with the existing law that requires that individuals, particularly convicted of or accused of a sex offense, cannot be in the same classroom with their with students. So we removed that provision. Additionally, there was a provision that said that if a student was going to be removed from a school program, that there needed to be a meeting. That's part of official current law, and that if the student had an attorney, that student must be invited to that meeting. Additionally, when the bill came in, it also said that the principal or the county superintendent could not ask any questions. Our committee removed that provision, again, feeling that that might be something that should be addressed in JPR. So, as the bill stands, what the bill does is requires a report of reportable offenses. It also requires a report of school disturbances. We made 2 committee amendments. The first one will change the title. The second one alters the definition of the reportable offense to clarify that this is happening off of campus. Secondly, we clarified some information about what needs to be reported and added to the report. We wanted to make sure that we have a lot of information about the students record about their academic performance, what programs that they were going to receive, both prior to and after they are removed from school based on a reportable offense. And then third, it clarifies that provisions requiring the school, the academic performances and disciplinary actions. I described what the amendments were before, where we clarified about that the attorney could be invited to the parent and student conference. Also, as the bill came in, it looked like there was some confusion that seemed to suggest that these provisions only applied to disabled students, so we moved that to make it very clear that it's all students who have been charged with a reportable offense. And finally, as I said, we have an amendment that requires our county boards to submit an annual report to the department on school disruptions under the law, and we require the department to submit a compilation to the Maryland Center for School Safety. I ask for the adoption of the committee amendments and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 146 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Let's go to budget and tax. Calendar report number 61. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 386, Delegate D. Jones, Anne Arundel County and City of Annapolis, Small Minority and Women-Owned Businesses Account, Local State of Emergency, favorable with 1 amendment.
Chair recognizes Senator from Anne Arundel as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this bill is the almost substantive identical match to Senate Bill 310, which the Senate concurred with yesterday. It would expand the eligible uses for the Small Minority and Women-Owned Business Account, SWMOBA, to include grants to businesses and nonprofit organizations in Anne Arundel County and the City of Annapolis when there is a locally declared state of emergency. Just a reminder, we had 2 tornadoes and a 4th highest flood on record in just 14 months, and the ability to help our small businesses and nonprofits in those circumstances is paramount. There are 1 committee amendment that makes the bills technically identical by striking an extra subject to, and move adoption of the 1 committee amendment and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 1 committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 1 committee amendment is adopted. Now on to the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 386 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 394, Prince George's County Delegation. Prince George's County Municipal Tax Set-Off School Facility Surcharge and Public Safety and Behavioral Health Surcharge. Favorable with no amendments.
Chair recognizes Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill alters the due dates for 3 annual reports in Prince George's County. There are no amendments. I move a favorable report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 394 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 642, Delegate C. Branch, Baltimore City Homestead Property Tax Credit Notice favorable.
Chair recognizes Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Requires Baltimore City to mail by January 1st of each year a specified document regarding the homestead property tax credit to homeowners in Baltimore City. No amendments. Move favorable report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 642 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1479, Delegate Learman, Maryland Technology Development Corporation, Maryland Equity Investment Fund established favorable.
All right. Chair recognizes Senator from Prince George's as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, House Bill 1479 is identical to Senate Bill 885, which passed this chamber unanimously. It establishes the Maryland Equity Investment Fund in TEDCO. Mr. President, there are no amendments. I move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1479 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. We'll go back to Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs. Report number 72. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 167, Delegate Bagnall, Commission to establish a Maryland Women's Veterans Memorial, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th District as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 167 establishes the Commission to establish a Maryland Women's Veterans Memorial in order to provide recommendations for the funding, design, construction, and placement of an appropriate memorial dedicated to Maryland women veterans. By February 1, 2023, the Commission must submit a preliminary report on its findings and recommendations to the Governor and the General Assembly. A final report is due by September 30, 2023, and this bill terminates June 30, 2024. There are no committee amendments, fiscal impact none, and I move for the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th District.
A quick question. How does this relate to the Women's Veterans Memorial that's in Cecil County?
So we...
Is this a new memorial, or?
Well, we did talk about that. Is that the one in the...
Travel Plaza?
Travel Plaza.
Yes.
Correct. We discussed that. I think this commission will determine if we need one outside of the Travel Plaza.
Okay. Okay, that's good. I always thought the Travel Plaza was an odd place for it, but anyway, that's good. Thank you, appreciate it.
Mr. President.
All right. Yes, Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore County.
I can explain that. For several years ago, well, actually that has been there for 4 years, but for several years we had a commission to do just that, to make a memorial for women in military, in service. So we just could never get traction or never get the financing for it going, and finally when they did the travel unit, they said, hey, we will do this for you. But I think it's a beautiful place, it's very tranquil, and the signs are there to say where it is. I think, and I have been thinking about this for quite some time, that we need a little bit more for our women in service. So not to minimize that, keep that, but maybe somewhere here in Annapolis. And I just saw the bill and I contacted the delegate, and so I would love to work on that again, but that's why it is. But it is very nice, but I just think we need to honor our women just a little bit more than that. So that's the history.
No, and I agree. It's a nice memorial. It's just that everybody at the travel plazas traveling through our state and having something like you say in Annapolis where you could actually have a ceremony that's not at a travel plaza would be real nice. Thank you.
Yes. So thank you for that question. I'm glad I was able to explain.
Thank you, Senator. All right, on the report, any further discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 167 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 375, Delegate Corman, Open Meetings Act application and enhanced requirements. Maryland State Agency Transparency Act of 2022, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is conforming with Senate Bill 269 that this body just passed unanimously. There are 2 amendments. The first one is technical. The second one, as we did in this body, added historic St. Mary's Commission to the list of public bodies that must comply with the open meetings law. Move the adoption of the 2 amendments and the favorable report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 375 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 528, Delegate McKay, Town of Williamsport, Washington County Urban Renewal Authority for Blight Clearance, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 35th District as floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill authorizes the town of Williamsport to undertake urban renewal projects for blight clearance by exercising the power of eminent domain to acquire properties in blighted areas. The bill also sets forth procedures for taking the property, funds that may be used to do so, and disposition of the property, including authorization to dispose of it to private persons. There were no committee amendments. It passed unanimously in committee. I move for adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 528 is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 535, Prince George's County and Montgomery County delegations. Washington Suburban Transit Commission, Montgomery County and Prince George's County Commissioners, repeal of term limit, favorable.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Mr. President, this allows the appointees of the Montgomery County Executive and the Prince George's County Executive who serve on the Transit Commission to serve more than 2 terms. There are no amendments. Move adoption of favorable committee report.
All right, floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 535 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 543, Delegate McKay, Town of Hancock, Washington County Urban Renewal Authority for blight clearance, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 35th District as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill is very similar to the one I just had a couple bills ago, except this bill authorizes the town of Hancock to undertake those same urban renewal projects for blight clearance. There were no committee amendments. I move for adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 543 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 625, Delegate Kelly, Commission to study the healthcare workforce crisis in Maryland. Establishment, favorable with 2 amendments.
Healthcare workforce. Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore City as the floor leader.
This is the cross file of a bill that we passed, of the Senate version we just passed last week. I'm sorry, just give me 625. Oh, there we go. Thank you. There are 2 committee amendments. The first amendment makes the bill an emergency bill. The second modifies the makeup of the commission in part by adding an executive director of the 5 occupations boards and adding rural health and higher education. Essentially, it's amending it to the Senate version. I'm sorry, Mr. President, there's a lot, it's loud.
Yes, senators, please, if we give the senator your attention.
Okay, so I ask for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objection? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 625 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 878, Howard County Delegation, Howard County Department of Housing and Community Development, Housing Opportunity Trust Fund, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from Howard County as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this is a local bill which passed unanimously. It establishes the Housing Opportunities Trust Fund within the Howard County Department of Housing and Community Development to promote equitable access to affordable housing for households of limited income. It requires the Howard County Department to submit an annual report, and the bill takes effect July 1st, 2022. There are no amendments, and it passed unanimously. I urge the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 878 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 927, Delegate Polakovich Carr, Housing and Community Development, Affordable Housing, Listing and Disposal of Excess Real Property, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes Senator from Baltimore City as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This House bill, HB 927, helps us address the issue of excess property. It requires the Department of Housing and Community Development, after it receives to do two things, to develop a plan to donate or sell the property to nonprofit organizations that intend to use or redevelop the property as affordable housing, and two, to sell the property to a buyer that intends to redevelop the property as affordable housing. The committee amendments, there are two. The first one is technical. The second one conforms the House bill to the Senate bill by altering the definition of an affordable housing and requiring that there be notice to the state treasurer disposing the property, and removing the requirement for proceeds to be deposited into housing fund, and instead retains the common practice that we're currently operating under that requires the proceeds to be deposited by the bond annuity fund. We also ensure that local governments are notified so they have an opportunity to purchase if they wish. I ask for a adoption of the committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Oh, I passed the committee unanimously.
All right. Floor leader moves to the adoption of the two committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the two committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable report as amended. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 927 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 969, Delegate Kelly, State Board of Dental Examiners, Training and Disciplinary Process Revisions, favorable.
Mr. President. House Bill 696
Thank you, Senator.
is the exact cross-file of Senate Bill 611. It has to do with board member training requirements for the Maryland State Board of Dental Examiners. No amendments. Move the favorable result.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 969 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1182, Carroll County Delegation, Carroll County Commissioners, Compensation and Benefits, favorable. This is an emergency bill.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 35th District as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This emergency bill is the cross-file Senate Bill 545, which passed the Senate unanimously. It increases by $5,000 the annual compensation for each county commissioner in Carroll County, authorizes reimbursement to a commissioner for any county-related expenses incurred for official duties, and prohibits the Carroll County Board of County Commissioners from offering group insurance or pension benefits to the county commissioners that are different from similar benefits offered to full-time county employees. This passed committee unanimously, has no amendments, and I move for adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1182 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1451, Delegate McIntosh, Housing and Community Development, Business Projects, and the Business Development Program Financial Assistance, favorable with two amendments.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 1451 authorizes the Community Development Administration within the Department of Housing and Community Development to provide specified forms of financial assistance for business projects, including a convertible promissory note as specified. The bill also authorizes the Department of Housing and Community Development to provide financial assistance under the Neighborhood Business Development Program as a convertible promissory note as specified. The bill takes effect July 1, 2022. The bill authorizations provide convertible promissory notes as a form of financial assistance for business projects terminates July 1, 2026. There is one committee amendment. It adds several counties to the bill and their opportunity zones. There's no fiscal impact, and I move for the favorable adoption of the amendment and committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the two committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the two committee amendments are adopted. On the amended report, any discussion? Any objections? If not, without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1451 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1464, Delegate Sample Hughes, Maryland Loan Assistance Repayment Program for Physicians and Physician Assistants, alterations favorable with one amendment.
1464. Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th District as floor leader.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. President. This bill, the cross-file of Senate Bill 626, specifies that a part-time physician or part-time physician assistant is eligible for the Maryland Loan Assistance Repayment Program for the physicians and physician assistants, and authorizes the Maryland Department of Health to establish prorated loan repayment for the part-time practitioners. The bill also establishes the Advisory Council, which will provide staff for an analysis of this program. Members of the council may not receive compensation, but are entitled to reimbursement. There's one committee amendment. It's a technical amendment. Therefore, I move for the adoption of the amendment and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. On the amended report, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1464 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1471, Delegate Beitzel, Garrett County Memorial Hospital, lease authorization and alterations to Board of Governors. Favorable with one amendment. This is an emergency bill.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 38th District.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. I am pleased to present this Garrett County Memorial Hospital bill. This emergency bill, House Bill 1471, is a cross-file of Senate Bill 978, which passed the Senate unanimously, authorizes the Garrett County Commissioners and the Board of Governors of Garrett County Memorial Hospital to lease the Garrett County Memorial Hospital in accordance with terms determined by the County Commissioners and the Board of Governors. In addition, the bill decreases from 9 to 3 the total number of members of the Garrett County Memorial Hospital Board if the County Commissioners and the Board of Governors lease the Garrett County Memorial Hospital. The bill also requires the 3 members of the board to be residents of Garrett County and be appointed by the County Commissioners as specified. There is one committee amendment which makes a technical change to conform the bill to its cross-file, and I move for a favorable report of this Garrett County Memorial Hospital bill, House Bill 1471.
All right. Floor leaders move for the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1471 is ordered passed for third reading. Budget and tax report number 60. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 685, Delegate C Branch, Education, Regional Resource Centers and Libraries funding, favorable with one amendment.
Chair recognizes Senator from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 685 increases the per capita funding amount that must be provided to each regional resource center and to each county public library system participating in the state's library program beginning in fiscal 2024. Committee amendments, there's one amendment that alters the per capita amount for fiscal 23 to reflect the final posture of the state budget, and therefore alters the per capita amount for fiscal years 2024 through 2027 with annual increases in each of those years. I move adoption of the amendment and the favorable committee report.
All right. Floor leader moves for the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. On the amended report, any discussion? Any objection? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 685 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. All right, quick check-in on timeline. We're going to, at about 1 o'clock, adjourn for the legislative day to come back about 30 minutes later. We're going to break for lunch very quickly. We have to get some stuff that's been printed. We have to see if conference committees can meet while folks are still here. So we're going to probably take about a 30-minute break with the rules in between. and then we'll come back. We'll get through as much as we can, but our goal is to get out of here no later than 3. So we'll see if we can do that any earlier. So let's do, we have 10 more minutes, 12 more minutes. If we could ring the bells and do a quorum call before some third readers.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 44 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland remains in session. Clerk will read the first bill. It's a concurrence calendar out of finance.
Senate Bill 3, Senator Carter, Facilities, Disabilities, Juveniles, Behavioral Health and Healthcare, Children and Community Relations, Plans, Finance.
Chair recognizes Chair of the committee.
Mr. President, the House amendments alter the title and strike unnecessary compliance requirements for only licensed behavioral health programs. We move to concur.
All right, Chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, Senate concurs with the House amendments. Senate Bill 3 is now before the body on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 3, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 720, Senator Kelly, State Board of Examiners of Nursing Home Administrators, renaming licensure of assisted living managers and penalties, Finance.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you. There's just one House amendment. It's technical and corrective. We move to concur.
All right, Chair moves that we concur on the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Question now is on the Senate Bill 720 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 720, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 734, Senator Lamb, Maryland Health Care Commission, Primary Care Report and Work Group, Finance.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you. The House amendments, number 1, expand the scope of primary care services examined under the bill to include services provided by nurse practitioners and nurse midwives, and adds members to the work group. We move to concur.
All right, the chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objection? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. 734 is now on third reading for final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 734, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 824, Senator Kramer, Health, Accessibility of Electronic Advanced Care Planning Documents, Finance.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you. The House amendment corrects references in the bill in order to conform Senate Bill 824 with a similarly amended House Bill 1073. We move to concur.
All right, chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, Senate concurs with House amendments. Senate Bill 824 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 824, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 828, Senator Klossmeyer, Family Investment Program, Eligibility, Work Experience, Community Service and Reports, Alterations, Finance.
Chair recognizes chair of the committee on the House amendments.
Thank you. The House amendment corrects the technical problem with the purpose paragraph. We move to concur.
All right, Senator moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 828 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 828, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 859, Senator Watson, Public Health, Sickle Cell Disease Registry, Establishment, Finance.
Chair recognizes Chair of the Committee on the House Amendments.
Thank you. Senate Bill 859 is amended by the House, combines several bills concerning sickle cell anemia. The bill renames a steering committee, requires the Maryland Health Department and the steering committee to establish and implement a system of providing information on the sickle cell trait, and requires the steering committee to study and make recommendations on specified issues, including establishing a registry. The House amendments alter Senate Bill 859 as described. We move to concur.
All right, Chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the Senate concurs with the House amendments. Senate Bill 859 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 859, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. We've got a Senate bill for third reading. This is Calendar 84. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 319, Senator McCray, Public Safety, Maryland Swimming Pool and Spa Standards Adoption, JPR.
Senate Bill 319 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 38 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 319, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, we've got a consent calendar of House bills. This is calendar 43. Clerk will read the calendar.
Senate third reading calendar number 43, consent number 18.
All right, Senators, take a look. These are on third reader for final passage. Chair recognizes the Senator from Prince George's.
Mr. President, Mr. President, would you remove 275 for purpose of an amendment?
275 will be removed. Chair recognizes Senator from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can we please remove or separate House Bill 714 for the purposes of an amendment?
714. Any others? Any others? All right, the remainders are on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, House bills on consent 18 having received a constitutional majority are declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 275, Delegate Love, Environment, PFAS Chemicals, Prohibition and Requirements, George Walter Taylor Act.
House Bill 275 is on third reading. Chair recognizes Chair of the committee has an amendment.
Yeah, Mr. President, this was missed in passing it over. I believe it will conform it to the Senate bill, which is in their hands. Move adoption of the amendment.
All right, Senator moves the amendment to conform. Any discussion, any objections? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. House Bill 275 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 275, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 714, Delegate Stein, Bay Restoration Fund, Intended Use Plans and Privately Owned Wastewater Facilities.
Chair recognizes Senator from Anne Arundel as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have an
Oh,
amendment.
sorry, excuse me, as amendments. Yes, the Senator has an amendment. We'll collect the amendment. All right, let's just get it loaded. Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, you'll recall that this bill is another attempt to protect our incredibly important Bay Restoration Fund. The bill, as it stands, has certain perimeters around when and where BR funds could be used for a private facility. The amendment would strike two lines and allow for instance, a mobile home park that is held by a subsidiary, not just an independent mobile home park, to utilize the Bay Restoration funds. There's still other protections. Only 50% of the project could be funded. Can't have a recent environmental violation. I move the adoption of the amendment.
All right, Senator moves the amendment. Are there any objections to the amendment? If not, without objection, the amendment is adopted. House Bill 714 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 714, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. We've got a consent calendar, one of our infamous JPR 2 bill consent calendars. Number 44, clerk read the calendar.
Senate third reading calendar number 44, consent number 19.
All right, any bills that senators wish to vote separately? If not, third reader, final passage, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, House bills on consent 19, having received a constitutional majority, are declared passed. All right, we've got, let's break there. Let's see if we have committee amendments. Any committee meetings. We're going to come back at 1:30. All right, 1:30. Yes, we're fine. Chair recognizes Chair Budget and Tax.
Thank you, Mr. President. If we could have the Budget and Tax Committee meet in the red room immediately following session.
Okay, in the red room. All right. Oh, wait. We may have to do a Rules Committee in the red room. So, Rules followed by Budget and Tax. Does that work? Chair of Rules Committee?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm trying to determine when the Rules Committee could meet, if the Budget and Tax is going to be meeting right after.
We'll go first. I think we'll go first, and then Budget and Tax may be able to follow.
The Budget and Tax will follow the Rules Committee?
I think that works.
That's very wise.
So ordered.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Any other announcements before we adjourn? Adjourn until 1:30? Let's do a quorum call before we adjourn.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 44 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, Senate of Maryland remains in session. Chair recognizes the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate of Maryland stand adjourned until 1:30 p.m. today.
Without objection, so ordered. Please, Senators, 1:30 is 1:30. Thank you.